Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere bleak, somewhere itchy, bleeding and deeply unfair. We're travelling back to the Middle Ages, but this time not to just survive as any peasant. No. Tonight you're going to survive it as a woman, or try to, spoiler. It's not going to go well. So get ready for childbirth, chores, and church-sponsored misogyny. Because the Middle Ages were hard. And being a woman, that was hard mode. Before we descend into the damp, lopsided tragedy that is your medieval life, do me a favour. If you enjoy these slow, depressing bedtime journeys through historical suffering, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and whether you're horizontal yet. I like to imagine a world map of quietly miserable people trying to sleep while learning why indoor plumbing is a miracle. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum of modern comfort. And let's slip quietly into a world where comfort doesn't exist. Welcome to womanhood in medieval Europe. Congratulations! You've just woken up, which is already disappointing. Not because it's early, not because you're tired, but because you've woken up as a woman in medieval Europe. And trust me, this isn't one of those quirky, candlelit, corset and poetry fantasy scenarios. There are no slow-motion dances, no noble suitors, no featherbeds, no lace, no Jane Austen soundtrack, just lice and a sore back. You're not a lady of the court. You don't have flowing gowns or embroidered slippers. You don't paint with crushed berries and sigh near fountains. You are a peasant woman, and your day is going to hurt. Your bed is a pile of straw, a flattened, itchy nest that used to be wheat, then became a mattress, and is now just a damp metaphor for your life. There's no blanket, not unless you count your husband's arm, which you don't, and no pillow, unless your arm hasn't fallen asleep before you did. You shift, and the entire bed lets out a noise like a dying goat. You're not sure if it's the straw, the frame, or your spine. Your feet hit the floor. It's cold. It's always cold. Even in summer, somehow, your floor manages to maintain the emotional temperature of abandonment. And it's not just cold, it's alive. You feel something squish under your heel. You tell yourself it was hay. You lie to yourself often. It helps. There's no such thing as privacy. You wake up next to your husband, your toddler, and probably a chicken that wandered inside last night and decided to stay. Someone's elbow is in your ribs. A child's foot is pressed to your face. The rooster is already crowing, even though it's clearly still night. You hate that rooster. You hate how punctual it is. Your first full breath of the day smells like wood smoke, sweat, goat, and something that might be soup, or might be your other child. You look around the room. It's just the one room. There is no bedroom. There is no kitchen. There is no space. Everything happens here. Eating, sleeping, birthing, crying, bleeding, breaking. You've seen 3 people die in this room. You've birthed 2 of your own children here. You've thrown up on every surface, at least once. Some of them weren't yours. You sit up. Your head pounds. Your body aches. Every joint clicks, and not in a satisfying way. More like an ominous countdown. You're not old. You're in your early 20s, which, in this time period, is basically elder status. You're one backache away from being referred to as the old one. You scratch your scalp. Lice. You gave up fighting them. They live here now. Rent-free. Full board. Thriving. Your hair is braided and greasy. There is no soap. There is no shampoo. There is just water, when it's not frozen, and ash, if you're feeling fancy. You don't own a mirror. You haven't seen your own face in weeks. You're not sure what you look like anymore. Probably pale. Probably tired. Definitely covered in crumbs that are either food or bedding or someone else's skin. You try to stand. Your knees protest. Your hips ache. Your lower back sends you a gentle reminder that you're probably developing a hunch. You stretch, and something cracks loudly. Everyone ignores it. Even the chicken. There's no morning routine. There is no breakfast laid out. No washroom. No warm towel. No sunlight gently filtering through linen curtains. There's just this. A cold room. A wet floor. And a baby that is already crying. You move to the corner of the room where a bucket lives. Yes, that bucket. The one. It's full again, and it's your job to empty it. You glance at your husband. Still asleep. Open mouth. Snoring. One hand resting gently on his belly like a contented warthog. You consider throwing the bucket at him. You don't. Because then you'd have to clean it up. Instead you take a rag and wrap it around your shoulders like armour. It smells like last week. Possibly last month. You open the door. No hinges, just a piece of wood shoved in a frame. And step outside. The air hits you like a slap. It's wet and sharp, and full of something earthy that might be manure or just February. You walk behind the hut to empty the bucket. You pour it into the designated trench, which you pretend is a drainage system. It's not. It's just a hole in the ground that freezes in winter and breeds mosquitoes in summer. You shout, "Gardyloo!" It's tradition. No one's there. You shout it anyway. It's the only thing in your life that feels like a boundary. The wind picks up. You shiver. Your shift is damp, your toes are numb, and your only thought is, how did this become normal? Back inside, your toddler is now awake. He's already eaten something off the floor. You don't stop him. You don't have the energy. You hand him a scrap of bread so hard it could be used in warfare. He chews it happily. Your daughter is wrapped in a wool blanket that weighs roughly the same as a small cow. She's warm, but also flat from the pressure. You begin the mental checklist. What do I need to do today to keep everyone alive? Bread? Water? Firewood? Feed the goat? Check on Marjorie? Boil the rags? Patch the hem? Stir the stew? Try not to die. You whisper it to yourself like a prayer. Not because anyone hears, but because it helps you remember your name. You don't speak often. When you do, it's to give instructions, or apologies, or warnings. You haven't said anything unnecessary in years. No one's asked you a question in months. No one's asked how you are, because no one wants to know. Your husband finally wakes up. He coughs, stretches, and scratches himself with the urgency of a dog mid-fight. He doesn't greet you. He doesn't thank you. He just says, "You start the fire?" You nod. You don't mention the bucket, or the bread, or the sleep you didn't get. He steps outside to check the goat. You know he'll forget to close the door. He always does. And you? You return to the hearth. You kneel before it. You blow into the coals. You add wood, carefully, reverently, because this tiny flame is your warmth, your cooking, your light. It's your god now. And as it flares up, you sit back. Bones aching, hands dirty, hair tangled, baby on your hip, bread in your lap, child on the floor, smoke in your eyes. And you smile. Not because you're happy, but because the fire lit on the first try. And sometimes that's enough. The fire is burning now. That's your biggest win so far. A tiny flame, flickering like a nervous apology, warming the one part of your body that isn't already aching. You sit back and take a deep breath, which is a mistake. The air inside your home smells like a barn had an argument with a sewer and lost. You get used to it though. Sort of. You stop noticing it the way you stop noticing a toothache. It's there. It hurts. You just carry on. You move across the room, which takes 4 steps. The baby is stirring. You lift her from the blanket pile, cradling her with one arm, while your other hand pours something resembling breakfast into a wooden bowl. It's not porridge. It's not soup. It's something in between. Brown, lumpy, mildly sour, but warm. You eat first, not out of selfishness, but because your daughter needs milk. And if you pass out, there's no backup plan. The spoon is carved from a branch. You've used it for everything. Feeding, mixing, scooping, cleaning, scraping, breaking ice, defending your chicken coop. It's worn smooth from years of service, and like you, it never really rests. You sit on the stool, the one leg wobbles, so you angle your foot to keep it balanced. You do this automatically, like blinking, like breathing, like enduring. Your husband re-enters the hut, shaking snow from his boots directly into the firewood pile. You say nothing. You always say nothing. Words waste energy, and firewood matters more than opinions. He mutters something about the goat. You nod. The goat is your third most important relationship, after your children and the fire. Your husband coughs again. You glance up. He's pale, sweaty. You think about fevers, about infections, about what you'll do if he dies, and what you'll do if he doesn't. Your daughter burps softly. You wipe her mouth with the end of your sleeve. You've stopped caring about stains. Everything you wear is already stained, with food, blood, ash, and life. There's nothing clean here. There hasn't been in years. You change her rag. The reusable cloth soak through again. You only have 2. You'll boil them later, with lye, over fire, while stirring the stew with the same spoon. You've learned not to flinch at contradictions, because you live inside one. You shift again. The stool wobbles. Your lower back sends up a flare. You ignore it. Your son is tugging at your skirt. He wants to go outside, to play in the snow, to look for beetles, to find the neighbour's cat and pet it backwards. You nod. He'll freeze his fingers. He'll be back in 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes will be silent. And silence is worth everything. You close your eyes just for a second. Not to sleep. You haven't done that in years. Not really. But to breathe. To exist very quietly without anyone needing something from you for a few moments. You're not supposed to want that. Space. Solitude. Thought. You're supposed to want... what exactly? To be good? To serve? To obey? To please? To feed? To stay? Always to stay? Because the moment you leave, even in your mind, you become a problem. A danger. A rumour. You stand up. You clean the bowl. With cold water and a rag. You rewrap the baby. You rebraid your hair. You reheat the stew. You don't sigh. You don't grumble. You don't make a scene. You're a medieval woman. You're expected to suffer silently and smile while doing it. You glance at the hearth again. The flames flicker weakly. The fire is losing its fight. You grab more wood from the pile. 2 pieces left. You'll have to gather more soon, later. When your hands stop shaking, you wrap the baby to your chest again, using a strip of cloth that smells like smoke and old milk. You tie it tight, not too tight, just enough to keep her close, just enough to keep her from slipping, just enough to keep yourself together. You step outside. The wind hits your cheeks like a frozen slap. You blink, squint, and adjust. The ground is slush, wet, brown, loud. Each step is a squelch, a prayer, a warning. The sky is grey, always grey. You can't remember the last time you saw real blue. Your breath clouds in the air. Proof that you're still alive. You glance around the village. 12 homes. All the same. Timber, smoke, steam, decay. Children screaming, dogs barking, a man yelling about turnips. A normal day. You nod at Agnes. She nods back. Neither of you smiles. There's nothing to smile about. She's carrying a basket of laundry. You're carrying a baby. You both carry everything. You make your way to the edge of the village, to the wood pile. If you're lucky, the good kindling is still there. If not, you'll be digging under snow for branches that may or may not light. Your fingers ache. Your feet are already wet. Your baby is still asleep. You're so tired, but you keep going because you have to, because no one else will, because this is who you are now. A mother, a wife, a worker, a servant, a shadow. You gather wood, 1 log, 2, 3, balanced on your arm. The 4th falls. You try again. Your daughter shifts in the sling. You adjust. You mutter a prayer to God, to your muscles, to gravity. It holds. You walk back slowly, carefully, counting steps. 1, 2, 3. Not because it matters, but because it helps. You pass the well. You come back to it later, with the bucket, and the rope, and the hope it isn't frozen again. You pass the old woman who mutters things no one understands. Some say she's a witch. You think she's just tired. You get it. You pass Marjorie's home. You wave at her son. He doesn't wave back. He's chewing on bark. You don't ask. You reach your door. Kick it open with your foot. Step inside. Dump the wood. Rebuild the fire. Your husband is gone again. To the field. Or the tavern. Or to argue about pigs. You don't care. You sit down. You unwrap the baby. You stir the pot. You feel the heat. It's not comfort, but it's something. And today, right now, something is enough. The baby is fed, the fire is steady, the room is quiet, for now. You sit still for once, not because you're resting, but because there's nowhere to move. Your home is 10 steps wide, give or take, because you've paced it. Sometimes when the baby cries, sometimes when you cry, and sometimes when you're just trying to remember what motion feels like when it isn't serving someone else. Your son is back. He's tracked mud across the floor. Again. You say nothing. You've swept that floor so many times, the dirt has started to feel like a friend. He hands you something. A rock shaped like a bird. He's proud of it. You pretend to be surprised. It goes on the shelf, which is actually just a wooden beam with 3 things on it. A chipped bowl, a button you found, your son's other rock, shaped like nothing. You tell him it's beautiful. He grins. For a moment, you forget the cold. You forget the aching. You forget that your shift is damp and your stomach hasn't been full since last harvest. For a moment, you remember you have a heart. Then he starts hitting the wall with a stick, and the moment ends. You look down at your hands. They're red and cracked. The skin pulls tight around your knuckles. There's ash in the lines. Your nails are rimmed with dirt that never comes out. They don't look like hands. They look like tools. You once tried to make them soft again. Years ago. You rubbed them with fat, wrapped them in cloth. But softness doesn't survive here. Not on your skin. Not in your life. You hear footsteps outside. Heavy, wet, familiar. Your husband. He walks in, dripping. Doesn't say where he's been. Doesn't say what he's done. Just shrugs off his cloak and grunts about dinner. You nod. You always nod. You ladle pottage into a bowl, the less cracked one. You hand it to him first. He slurps loudly, drops some on the bench, keeps eating. You serve the children next. Then yourself. Or what's left. You eat slowly, because it makes it feel like there's more. There isn't. After dinner, the room goes dim. The fire fades. The rushlight burns low. Your husband lies down. Your son curls next to him. The baby is already asleep on your chest. There's no bedtime routine, no stories, no brushing of teeth, just gravity and exhaustion, and hoping no one wets the bed. You wipe your hands on your shift. You lay the baby down. You stretch out next to her. There's no room. You twist your legs just so. Fold your arms just right. Balance your spine between a rock and a sharp stick under the straw. Your husband snores. Your son kicks. The wind groans through the wall. You close your eyes, and it begins again. The thoughts, the fears, the list of things you forgot, the list of things you'll forget tomorrow. You think about the bucket. It needs emptying. You'll do it at dawn. You think about Marjorie. She lost her baby last week. No one talks about it. No one has time to grieve. You think about Agnes. She hasn't spoken in days. They say she saw something in the woods. You hope it was something better. You think about yourself. And then stop, because nothing good comes from that. The fire pops. The baby stirs. Your husband coughs. You stay awake. You don't dream. You remember. One time, when you were young, you danced in the rain. Another time, you laughed so hard you scared the cat. Your mother used to sing when she made bread. Your sister once gave you a dried flower and called it treasure. You still have that flower. Somewhere. You think. Or maybe you just want to believe you do. You open your eyes again. Dark. Still. Quiet. This is your home. This is your life. This is your one room, one fire, one spoon, one chance to make it through one more day. You are not noble. You are not wealthy. You are not remembered. You're a medieval woman. And that means no rest, no reward, no rescue. But you're still here, and somehow that counts. Let's talk about your house. Not in the cosy architectural digest kind of way. No open concept kitchens or reclaimed oak beams here. This place wouldn't even qualify as a shed in the modern world. It's the kind of home that if it appeared in a real estate listing, the page would catch fire out of embarrassment. You live in what is generously referred to as a cottage. It is not cute. It is not charming. It is a box made of desperation and twigs. 4 timber walls, if you can call them that, stuffed with wattle and daub. Translation: a delightful mix of sticks, straw, mud, and sadness. It's like your house is made out of compost that learned how to stand upright. And let's be clear, it is not weatherproof. When it rains outside, it rains inside. When the wind blows, your walls lean slightly, like they're considering giving up. The roof? Thatched. Which sounds quaint until you realise it's a flammable hay blanket held together by bugs and good intentions. It leaks constantly. It shelters mice. It once caved in under the weight of a raccoon and a moral failing. There is one door. It does not lock. It doesn't even latch, really. You just wedge a stone in front of it and hope no one too ambitious pushes it open. You have no windows, not in the privacy first way, in the glass costs more than your annual income way. Instead, there are slits in the wall covered by oiled linen or animal skin, which doesn't let in much light, but does let in the local insect population. Your version of natural light is dim, yellow, and vaguely threatening. The floor is dirt. No, not rustic, charming, reclaimed earth, just dirt. Packed down by decades of feet, spilled stew, goat hooves, childbirth, blood, and disappointment. In summer, it's dust. In winter, it's mud. In spring, it's a mystery soup. You don't sweep it, you can't mop it, you just live on it. Along with the mice, the lice, the beetles, and that one persistent slug that keeps showing up like it owns the place. You do not have rooms. There is one space, one fire, one bed, one bench. It's all open concept. Not in a minimalist design way, but in the poverty doesn't believe in walls way. The bed is where you sleep, where your children are born, where you bled last winter for 3 days straight and still had to bake bread. There's a bench for sitting, a pile of rags for sleeping, and a chest for the two things you own that aren't food or regret. Every surface is multi-purpose. Every corner is shared. There is no privacy. None. Your bodily functions, your arguments, your sex life, all public events. The phrase me time hasn't been invented, and if it had, it would be considered heretical. Let's talk about smells. You live with your husband, 2 children, a goat, sometimes your mother-in-law, always at least 3 rodents. No one bathes regularly. No one owns soap. No one closes their mouth when they chew because no one has enough teeth left to matter. Your home smells like wet wool, burning cabbage, baby-sick urine, not always yours, and a smoky undertone of spiritual defeat. It is layered. You once tried to mask the odour by hanging herbs over the door. Your husband ate them. Now the house just smells like garlic breath and missed potential. Light? You have one rushlight, a strip of dried reed dipped in animal fat. It sputters. It stinks. It lasts about as long as your patience. Candles are for churches. Lanterns are for the wealthy. You light the rushlight only when someone's ill, dying, or looking for a splinter after sundown. So mostly you sit in the dark. Heat? Your fire is the only source. No chimney. Just a hole in the roof. So the smoke hangs in the air, like a ghost who chain smokes and refuses to leave. Your eyes burn. Your lungs ache. Your children cough. You cough. Your husband says it's just a cold. You suspect it's tuberculosis. Let's not forget the bugs. Lice live in your bed. Fleas live on the goat. Ticks find you in the fields and leave you gifts. Beetles crawl through your bread. You no longer scream when a spider appears on your arm. You just flick it off and keep kneading the dough. Because honestly, it's not the worst part of your day. You once dreamed of living in a manor house, with windows, and floors, and silence. Now you dream of a dry corner, a warm bowl, A door that doesn't creak every time your husband sneaks out to pee in the bush. Your home does not care about your dreams. Your home is not here to comfort you. It's here to survive you. Because long after your back gives out and your name is forgotten, this box of sticks and mud will still be standing, still leaking, still slightly tilted, still hosting that slug. And every night, when you lie on your straw bed beside a snoring man, a half-awake child, and the ghost of your better life choices, you look at the low, soot-streaked ceiling and whisper, maybe tomorrow it won't rain inside. And every morning the roof says, no. Let's talk about what you're wearing, not in a cute outfit kind of way. In a, please don't set me on fire, I can't afford another dress kind of way. Your wardrobe is simple, and by simple, I mean singular. You own exactly one dress. It is made of wool. It is itchy. It smells like smoke and soup and suffering. You have worn it every day for the past 18 months. It was probably handed down to you by someone who died. You don't ask who. You don't want to know. Underneath the dress you wear a shift. It is made of linen, if you're lucky, rough spun, slightly yellow. It's meant to be a barrier between your skin and the wool. It fails. Your thighs chafe. Your armpits itch. Your lower back is a battlefield of sweat, rashes, and whatever that rash is that no one can identify, but everyone pretends isn't contagious. You try to wash it once a month? Maybe. When the weather is good. When the river isn't frozen. When you have time, which is never. You do not own underpants. They exist, technically, but not for you. If you're on your period, you stuff rags into your shift, or straw, or moss, or you just let nature run its course and sit on a special bleeding bench. Yes, that's a real thing. No, it does not come with a cushion. Your dress has a single clasp at the neck and a string around the waist. It does not fit well. It was not tailored. It was good enough. And now it's yours. The hem is fraying. The sleeves are uneven. There is a suspicious stain near the thigh area that you no longer try to remove. Fashion is not a concept in your world. There is only clothed and naked. You are clothed, barely. You own a shawl. It is not warm. It is not soft. It is a rectangle of fabric that flaps in the wind like a sad banner. You wrap it around yourself when it's cold, which is always. You pin it with a wooden brooch your son made. It's lopsided. You treasure it. Shoes? You wish. You used to have a pair. Leather, stiff, slightly too small. They lasted 3 winters. Then the sole split, and your husband said he'd fix it. That was 4 months ago. Now you go barefoot, through mud, through dung, through snow. You've developed calluses so thick, you could walk across gravel and barely flinch. You miss shoes, but not as much as you miss socks. On special occasions you wear a head covering, a coif, or a veil. Depending on how rich you aren't, it's meant to signify modesty, or piety, or femininity. Mostly, it keeps your hair from falling in the fire when you bend over the stew. Your hair is braided, tucked, and ignored. You haven't brushed it properly since last Pentecost. There are birds who receive more grooming than you do. You see other women in the village. They wear the same thing. Everyone does. Wool, linen, layers, patches on patches, more stitching than fabric. Every outfit a story. Every story a little sad. Washing clothes is an event. You drag them to the river. You beat them on a flat stone. You scrub them with ashes and curse the wind. Sometimes you manage to hang them on a line strung between 2 trees. Then it rains. or a goose attacks them, or your toddler pulls them down and uses them as a sled. So mostly, you just stop trying. Your dress isn't an outfit, it's a second skin, a parasite, a burden. You wake in it, work in it, bleed in it, sleep in it, mourn in it. You'll probably die in it. Someone might strip it from your body and wear it next, because wool is expensive, because grief doesn't outweigh practicality. There are times you miss softness, a blanket, a clean sleeve, a moment when your skin isn't itchy or wet or covered in crusted milk. There are times you dream of linen sheets, of silk, of having 2 dresses, of choosing what to wear, of feeling clean. Then the baby cries, the fire dies, and the wind slips through a crack in the wall and reminds you, comfort is for the rich. You are not rich. You are wrapped in damp wool and doing your best. Let's talk about the weather. Not in a friendly, chatty, how's the sky treating you today kind of way. No, in medieval Europe, the weather isn't small talk. It's your daily nemesis, and it does not like you. Winter is not winter, the way we know it now. There is no heating, no insulation, no wool socks from grandma. There's just a fire that keeps threatening to die, a leaking roof, and frost creeping across the inside of your walls like a slow, quiet curse. You wake up with ice in your hair. Your blanket doesn't help. Your breath comes out in little clouds that hang in the room like ghosts. You can see your children's ribs through their tunics. Their fingers are purple. You rub them with yours and pretend it's fine. It's not fine. The floor is frozen. Your feet ache just from standing. Your joints creak when you bend. You sleep fully clothed, wrapped around your baby like a human scarf, and still wake up shivering. The wind moans through the gaps in the wall. You stuff rags into the holes. They freeze. The goat refuses to produce milk. The chickens are angry and confused. You can't blame them. You've considered laying down in the straw and just not getting up. But someone needs to break the ice on the water bucket. Someone needs to light the fire. Someone needs to feed the baby. And that someone is always you. You dream of warmth the way other people dream of paradise. A fire that doesn't smoke. A room that doesn't leak. A bed that doesn't bite. Instead you get chilblains. You get cracked heels. You get the kind of pain in your knuckles that makes you wince just looking at a spoon. Your husband says it builds character. You'd love to build a wall between you and his character. Then comes summer. You think it'll be better. You're wrong. Your house becomes an oven. Not a modern one. A medieval one. With smoke, flies, and no temperature control. You sweat through your shift before breakfast. But you can't take it off. Modesty is important. Especially when you're dying of heat stroke. You're sunburned. You're sticky. You're itchy in places you can't reach without a long stick and a private room. Neither of which you have. The fire still needs to be lit because the stew still needs to cook. And the baby still needs warm water, and your life still needs sustaining. So you kneel beside the flames while sweat rolls down your back, and your face turns red, and your arms feel like cooked sausages. Then you wipe your face with the same rag you used to clean a bowl, and hope the salt keeps the bacteria away. The flies are relentless. They come for your food. They come for your face. They come for your soul. You've swallowed 3 this week by accident. One of them buzzed for a full 5 seconds before dying inside you. You pretend that didn't happen. The children are covered in bites. You are covered in bites. The goat is biting itself. It's a biting season. Rain doesn't help. Rain turns everything to soup. The floor, the path, the walls, your clothes. You live in damp. Your hair is always wet. Your sleeves never dry. You have fungus growing between your toes, and no one will look at it. You wouldn't either. The wood won't burn. The bread won't rise. The baby has a rash. You also have a rash. You whisper to the sky, "Please stop." The sky responds with thunder, and when autumn comes, you know it's lying to you. The leaves are red and gold, beautiful. But that beauty means nothing. It means winter is coming, and you're not ready. You never are. You count your firewood, it's not enough. You count your grain, it's not enough. You count your prayers, they stopped answering months ago. You patch the roof again. You fill cracks with mud. You rearrange straw in the bed to cover the hole. It's never enough. You once thought nature was beautiful. A tree, a field, a sky. Now you know the truth. Nature is a passive-aggressive assassin. It doesn't kill you quickly. It wears you down. Slowly. Steadily. Like water carving a canyon through your spine. You remember stories from the church. About paradise. About golden light and gentle breezes and eternal peace. You wonder if that place exists. If it does, it's very far from here. Very far from the damp floor, the mouldy walls, the biting wind, the buzzing flies, the relentless itch, the eternal cold. You tuck your children in. You hug the baby closer. You lie down on your straw mattress and look up at the sagging roof. You feel a drop of water land on your forehead. You whisper, "I hate this house." The house creaks. You swear it whispers back, "I hate you too." It's morning again, or something like it. The rooster screamed, the baby cried, the fire was out. Your body hurts in 12 places, and one of them is new. You haven't even stood up yet, and you're already behind schedule. Here's the deal. You work. Constantly. Without pause. Without thanks. Without choice. Being a woman in medieval Europe means waking up every single day to a full-time job that doesn't come with wages, breaks, or even a polite death. You are the labour force, the domestic army, the one-person maintenance crew for a house that wants you dead, and a family that thinks clean dishes just happen. Let's begin. First task, relight the fire. Because of course it's gone out. Because your husband forgot to feed it. Because the wood was damp. Because nothing in this timeline loves you. You kneel by the hearth, cold stone biting into your knees. You blow gently into the ash. You arrange sticks, whisper a prayer, blow again. It catches, barely. You add bigger pieces. You cough. You blink through smoke. The baby whines. The toddler asks for food. Your husband grunts something about the goat. It's not even dawn yet. You stir the pot. Same stew as yesterday. Still hot-ish. Still vaguely edible. You ladle it into wooden bowls. Your son dribbles it down his chin. Your husband slurps like it's his final meal. You sip yours standing up. Because there's no time to sit. The baby spits up. You wipe it with your sleeve. You wipe it. You also use that sleeve to grab firewood, clean your hands, and dry your face. You have become the Swiss Army knife of motherhood. Now it's time for chores. There is no list. There is no end. Just the cycle. Relentless, looping, eternal. Clean the bowls. Scrub the floor. Shake out the bedding. Chop kindling. Haul water. Patch the hole in the wall with mud and regret. Everything is broken. Everything is dirty. Everything is your job. You see the smudge on the wall? That's yours. The stain on the table? Yours. The puddle near the door? Also probably yours. Even things you didn't do, yours now. Because if it happens in the house, the woman handles it. And by handles, we mean fixes quietly while everyone else complains. You head to the well. The bucket is heavy. The rope is splintered. Your palms are already raw. You pull. Hand over hand. Grip between your fingers. Pain in your wrists. Water splashing just enough to make your dress cling awkwardly to your thighs. It's humiliating. It's exhausting. It's necessary. You carry it back. Carefully, slowly, hoping no one knocks into you. Your son tries to grab your skirt. You hiss. He cries. You feel terrible. You keep walking. Back inside, the baby needs feeding. You sit down. You wince. You shift. Everything below your waist is one bad sneeze away from collapse. You feed her. She's hungry. Always hungry. You are too. You ignore it. Your stomach growls. You drink a bit of water. You chew the corner of bread from yesterday. It's hard enough to chip a tooth. You eat it anyway. Because hunger is just a quiet companion now. Like back pain or existential dread. You wash the linens, which means drag them outside, soak them in cold water. Scrub them with lye until your knuckles bleed. Then hang them. Then pray it doesn't rain. Then pray a goose doesn't steal them. Last time, the goose won. You're still mad. Mid-morning, you're in the garden. Digging. Weeding. Checking for signs of life among the half-frozen cabbage. The soil is stubborn. Your fingers are numb. You're wearing shoes today, sort of. Wooden soles tied with string. They help, but not much. Your child toddles nearby, chewing on a stick. You told him not to. He doesn't care. You let him. You're too tired to fight over sticks today. Your husband appears. He wants help mending a fence. Because apparently you're also a carpenter now. You hand the baby to your son, who is 4. You hold the fence post. You hold the hammer. You hold your tongue. He misses the nail. Twice. You take the hammer. You finish the job. He says, "Huh, you're good at that." You say nothing. You want to say, "I'm good at everything." You want to say, "Of course I am." You want to say, "You'd die without me." But you say nothing, because even your breath has a budget now. Lunchtime, which means more stew, same pot, slightly warmer, slightly sadder. Everyone eats before you, because that's the rule. You made the rule. You hate the rule. You follow it anyway. You get the bottom of the pot, burnt onions, too much salt. You chew, you swallow, you smile at your children like it's fine, because they don't need to know that you're fading. Afternoon chores, spin wool, card flax, sow tears, fix a shoe, sort herbs, brew tea for Marjorie, who's sick again. She thinks it's the spirits, you think it's malnutrition. Either way, you still boil water and bring it to her hut. She says thank you. You nod. No one hugs. You're both too tired. Back at home, your daughter has dirt on her face. Your son has mud in his mouth. Your husband is asleep on the bench. You feel something sharp in your shoulder. You press your fingers to it. It's a thorn. From this morning. Still stuck. You pull it out. Quietly. Without a sound. Because pain isn't special here. It's just another chore. It's not evening yet. Not even close. But your body is already shutting down. Your knees ache. Your wrists ache. Your spine is humming a low, resentful song. And the muscles in your lower back are locked into a permanent shrug of regret. You'd sit down, but then you'd have to stand up again. And honestly, Standing up is starting to feel like a moral failing. The baby is crying again. Because of course she is. She cries when she's hungry. She cries when she's tired. She cries when you're tired, which is always. You pick her up. You bounce. You hum something that might have been a lullaby once, but now just sounds like a woman slowly unravelling through music. She quiets. You don't. Your son has knocked over the water bucket. All of it. Gone. You stare at the puddle. You think about screaming. You think about crying. Instead, you grab the bucket. You walk outside. You draw more water. You carry it back. Because that's the job. That's the rhythm. React, repair, repeat. The bread needs baking. You check the dough. It hasn't risen. The air's too cold. You need it anyway. Hard, long, until your arms burn and your shoulders spasm. You shape it. You place it near the fire. You cover it with cloth. You tell it to rise like it's Lazarus. It ignores you. You don't blame it. You sweep the floor, which is ridiculous, because it's made of dirt. But sweeping it makes you feel like something can be fixed, even if it's just rearranging the dust into smaller, neater piles of despair. You gather crumbs. You chase out a mouse. You pretend that counts as control. Your husband wants food again. You don't ask where he went. You don't ask what he did. You just stir the stew and add more water. Stretch it. Thin it. Convince it to feed another mouth. You hand him a bowl. He eats. Doesn't look at you. Just burps and says, "Needs more salt." You want to throw the bowl at his head. Instead you nod. Because salt is expensive. And so is starting arguments you can't win. Outside, the sun finally starts to dip. The sky turns orange, then grey, then gone. Inside, the fire glows dull and low. You begin the night routine, such as it is. You clean the children, which means wiping them with a rag that's been in use since breakfast. You scrape dirt from their feet. You pull twigs out of their hair. You remove one small beetle from your daughter's ear. No one thanks you. They never do. You settle them into the pile of bedding. Rags, blankets, straw, hopes. You sing, softly, a song your mother used to hum, about stars, about rivers, about anything but here. They drift off. You stay awake, because of course you do. You patch your husband's shirt. The hole under the arm has grown large enough to qualify as a window. You thread the needle with trembling fingers. You sew slowly, badly, efficiently. Your eyes blur. You blink. You keep going. You check the fire. Add more wood. Blow softly. Shield it with your hand. The flame flickers. It's weak, but alive. You understand it deeply. You sit, not to rest, just because you have nothing left. You sit on the stool, the one that always wobbles. You don't fix it. The wobble feels honest. You stare at your hands, red, cracked, dirty. They look ancient. They look capable. They look like someone else's problem. You are tired, not sleepy. Sleep is something you pass out into. Tired is something you live inside. It is your second skin. It wraps around your lungs and weighs down your ribs. It fills your mouth with silence. It hums in your ears like a warning bell no one else hears. You remember faintly what it felt like to dream, to imagine, to want. You remember thinking there might be more than this, more than firewood and bread and rags and yelling and blood and soup and hands that always ask and never offer. But that was years ago. That was someone else. A girl. With soft hands and straight posture and a voice that hadn't learned how to stay quiet. She's gone now. You work in her place. Evening has officially arrived, which means more chores. Because night isn't for resting, it's for catching up on everything the daylight didn't allow. Which is everything. You scrape bowls, wipe crumbs from the bench, feed leftovers to the chickens. One of them bites you. You hiss, you kick the air, you lose the argument. You boil water for tomorrow, you check the stew pot. Still there, still sad, still your most consistent relationship. You hang the rags you washed earlier. They're still damp. They'll still be damp tomorrow. Everything is always damp. You fold the one extra shift you own. Tuck it under the bench like treasure. You whisper, "Please no lice this time." You know it's pointless. They never listen. Your husband asks if there's bread left. There isn't. He shrugs. You smile. It looks like politeness. It tastes like ash. You hand him a scrap of turnip instead. He eats it. Says nothing. You wipe the baby's face again. For the third time. Same stain, same cloth, same futility. You sit. Just for a second. You shouldn't, but you do. The fire is almost out, just embers now. You watch them. There's something mesmerising about watching something try to stay alive with so little left. Your daughter wakes briefly, whimpers, reaches for you. You cradle her, hum something tuneless, rocks slightly, like a human metronome with cracked ribs. She quiets. You don't. You think about the day. You didn't break anything. No one bled. The stew didn't burn. The roof didn't cave in. By medieval standards, that's a win. You let yourself feel proud for half a second. Then the baby spits up in your lap, and the pride washes away with the milk. You clean it. Oh, with your sleeve? Of course. Your dress smells like everything. Smoke, wool, salt, cabbage, regret. You stop noticing it. Mostly. You braid your hair. Tightly. Roughly. Not because it matters, but because it's something to do. Something that still feels human. You tuck your son into the pile of rags. He mumbles about dragons. You kiss his forehead. Whisper, "You're safe?" You hope it's true. Your husband lies down, already asleep, already snoring. You lower the baby beside you. Wrap the last corner of the blanket over both of you. Tuck your feet beneath the straw. Breathe through your nose. It smells like soot and onions and wool. Like every night, like every life, you lie still, staring at the ceiling, at the shadows moving across the beams, at the slow drip from the leak you can't reach, at the life you didn't choose, but never escaped. You work, you care, you feed, you clean, you fix, you carry, you fold, you lift. You wash, you bleed, you hush, you rock, you bend, over and over, every day, every night. No applause, no relief, no break. They call it women's work, as if it's smaller, as if it's easier. But it isn't smaller, it isn't easier. It's just invisible. Because you are invisible. Until something goes wrong. Then suddenly everyone sees you. But never to help. Only to blame, you stare into the dark. You are so tired, and there is still more to do tomorrow. But tonight, for this one moment, you're lying down. The fire is out. The baby is breathing. The house is still. And you let yourself think. Not of escape, not of revenge, not even of rest. Just this. I was here. I did everything. And no one noticed, but I was here. Then you close your eyes and wait for the rooster. You're not important. Not in your house. Not in your village. Not in your century. You're a woman. A peasant. A worker. A wife. A thing that serves. The social ladder? You're not even on it. You're the mud it stands in. Let's start at home. where you are technically the lady of the house. Which sounds elegant until you remember that your house is made of mud, and you answer to a man who thinks sneezing is a personality. Your husband makes the decisions. When to buy grain? When to sell eggs? When to let the pigs sleep inside? You make the suggestions. He ignores them. If he wants meat, you cook it. If he wants quiet, you provide it. If he wants to speak, you listen. If he wants you, you don't have a say. Consent is not part of your vocabulary. It doesn't exist here. Not for you. You're not a wife. You're a resource. In the village, you are below every man, even the drunk ones. Especially the drunk ones. They call you wench. They call you good wife. They call you there. They talk over you, around you, about you, never to you. If you're lucky, they ignore you. If you're not, they don't. You pass the blacksmith. He spits on the ground when you walk by. You pass the reeve. He eyes you like you owe him something. You pass the priest. He nods solemnly. Then preaches about sin. Your sin. The sin of women who speak too much, laugh too loud, or bleed too often. You're told your body is shameful, that your thoughts are dangerous, that your touch is temptation, and if anything goes wrong, it's probably your fault. You remember the girl from 2 Field Over. Martha. She smiled at a man. Then he followed her home. He said it was love. She said no. He didn't listen. The priest said she was asking for it. The village said she should be grateful. Her father said nothing. Now she walks with her head down, and everyone pretends not to see the bruises. Your place in this world is simple. You do not own land. You do not own tools. You do not own your body. You are property, not officially, but functionally. The Lord owns the land. The priest owns your soul. Your husband owns everything in between. If you speak up, you're hysterical. If you complain, you're ungrateful. If you cry, you're weak. If you fight back, you're dangerous. So you don't speak, you don't complain, you don't cry, you don't fight, you endure. And they call that virtue. There is no privacy, none. Not in your house, not in the field, not in the village, not even in your thoughts. Or so the priest says. Everything you do is seen. Everything you don't do is noticed. Everything you are is wrong. If your hair is down, you're lazy. If it's braided, you're proud. If it's covered, you think you're better than us. If it's uncovered, you're asking for trouble. If you walk fast, you're hiding something. If you walk slow, you're looking for attention. If you don't leave the house, you're probably a witch. If you do, you're definitely a witch. People talk. Your husband's mother says you don't scrub hard enough. Marjorie says your stew is thin. The priest's sister says she saw you laugh. Twice. In 1 week. And Agnes says you shouldn't wear that colour because it's too much. Or too little. Or something. You smile through it. Or you try to. But even your smile is suspicious. Too big. Arrogant. Too small. Unfriendly. None at all. Cold. There is a way to behave. It changes daily. You're expected to know it anyway. You don't. You never will. But you pretend you do. Because pretending is safer than failing. Let's say you're walking to the well. You pass a man. He nods. You look down. Because that's safer. If you nod back, you're flirtatious. If you smile, you're sinful. If you say hello, you're inviting something. If you say nothing, you're rude. Later, he tells someone you looked at him wrong, or that you didn't look at all, Either way, it's your fault. Your worth is measured in silence, service and shame. How quiet were you at dinner? How much did you endure without complaint? How well did you lower your eyes when corrected? How thoroughly did you array yourself? You know your place. Everyone makes sure of that. The priest reminds you. The villagers remind you. Your husband reminds you. Your own children will remind you one day, because they're watching and learning how the world works, how you're treated, how they will treat others. One time, a boy called you wise. He meant it kindly. The adults laughed, called it foolish. Women don't need wisdom, they said. Just obedience. You said nothing. You were 12. You learned to shrink. Not physically. There's no room left for that. But emotionally. Psychically. You pull your spirit into your ribs and lock it there. You move through space as quietly as possible. You speak only when it's safe. You act only when it's expected. You watch yourself vanish. And still, they find fault. Your stitching is uneven. Your bread is dry. Your prayers are too soft. Your hips are too narrow. Your belly is too round. Your laugh is too loud. Your silence is too sharp. You're always something, but never enough. You once saw a noblewoman ride through town, on a horse, wearing blue silk. People bowed, stared, whispered. You stared too, not because of the dress, but because she sat tall. She looked straight ahead. No one corrected her. No one doubted her. No one called her a name under their breath. She was a woman. But more importantly, she was rich. And rich women get to be people. You're not rich. You're barely real. You're a utility. A background character. A servant with a heartbeat. Let's talk about the people above you. Because there are many. And you will never reach them. You were not meant to. They live in stone houses. They wear furs. They own mirrors. They don't know your name. They don't need to. You know theirs. Because if you don't, you risk punishment. From them. From God. From everyone in between. The Lord owns your land. He owns your harvest. He owns your livestock. He owns the roof over your head. No matter how crooked or leaking or mouse-filled it is. You owe him labour and eggs and silence. If his men demand your husband for war, you give him up. If they want your daughter as a servant, you hand her over. If they trample your crops while hunting, you smile and say thank you. Because the only thing more dangerous than a noble ignoring you is one who notices you. They ride past you on tall horses, polished boots, cloaks that cost more than your entire household owns. They speak French, or Latin, or a version of English you can't afford to understand. They look at you like you're part of the scenery. A rock, a mud puddle, a thing they might ride through but never stop for. The priest is above you too. Not financially, not always, but spiritually, which is worse. He holds your soul like a landlord with a grudge. He tells you what to wear, how to speak, what to confess, who to forgive, who to fear. He tells you God loves you, then lists the 50 ways God will punish you. You nod. You cross yourself. You believe. Because doubt is dangerous. And faith is the only thing you own. Once a week you kneel in a pew, you bow your head, you repeat the words. You are told you are born sinful, that your pain is holy, that your role is divine. You are told Eve ruined everything, and you, as her descendant, must make amends forever. The church doesn't feed you, but it watches you. It doesn't help you, but it judges you. It tells you that suffering is noble, that obedience is power, that your silence is beautiful. You try to believe that, because the alternative, that it's all a trap, is too cruel to consider. The midwife is above you, in knowledge, in age, in scowls. She helped birth your children. She gave you herbs when you bled too long. She once slapped your husband for standing too close while you screamed. You admire her. You fear her. Because even she could ruin you, with a rumour. One whispered word about your womb, or your blood, or your spirit, and you'd be marked as barren, as wicked, as cursed. The line between woman and witch is thin here, and always drawn by someone else's hand. There were girls younger than you, already engaged, chosen for alliances, for land, for goats. You remember when you were chosen. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't your decision. You were told, he works hard. He has a roof. He won't beat you too much. And you said yes. Because saying no would have meant something worse. Your life is not yours. It belongs to your husband, to the priest, to the Lord, to the village. You're part of a system, a chain, a ladder, and you're the rung everyone steps on. One day, your daughter will grow up. She'll ask you why. Why you smiled when you were tired. Why you served when you were angry. Why you stayed quiet when you wanted to scream. You'll want to tell her the truth. That it's all unfair. That it's all wrong. That you dreamed of something better. But you'll probably tell her what your mother told you. This is the way of things. Because it's safer. Because it's simpler. Because it might keep her alive. You're not seen, not really. But you are used, counted on, expected, and blamed. You are not equal. You are not free. You are not even yours. You are beneath. And somehow, you're still here. You've never known freedom. Not the word, not the idea, not the feeling. What you've known is structure, law, God, punishment, tradition. You've known the weight of systems, not because they rest on your shoulders, but because they live inside your bones. You don't rebel against them. You don't even see them, not clearly. They're too big, and you're too small. It starts with birth. You're baptized within days. Before your name settles, before your body learns the world. Holy water on your brow. A promise sealed. You belong to God. And also to the church. And also to the community. And absolutely to your Father. Free will is a theory. Sin is a certainty. And original sin? That one's yours, personally. Because you're a daughter of Eve. And Eve, as you're reminded often, wrecked everything. Religion isn't just part of life. It is life. It's law. It's school. It's healthcare. It's the news. It's your calendar. It's your weather forecast. You know when to plant by the saints' days. You know when to fast by the moon. You know when to grieve, when to kneel, when to marry, when to bleed. Because the church tells you. And the church never asks. The priest visits once a week. He speaks Latin. You don't, but you still nod. Because nodding is faith now. And asking questions is heresy. He tells you to confess your sins. You do. He tells you to give what little you have. You do. He tells you that suffering is holy. You're already ahead of him on that one. You light candles. You cross yourself. You murmur prayers under your breath while scrubbing the floor. Sometimes you aren't even sure what you're praying for. Relief, maybe. Forgiveness for thoughts you didn't mean. For dreams you're not allowed to have. You pray for your children. You pray for quiet. You pray the goat doesn't die this week. You pray that you don't. The seasons revolve around holy days. Michaelmas, Candlemas, Lady Day, All Saints. You remember them the way people remember birthdays, because they dictate your meals. Some days you can eat butter. Some days you can't. Some days you fast. Some days you feast. Sort of. If you have anything left. It's less about celebration, more about obedience. The church teaches humility, especially for women. You're told your body is temptation, that your voice is dangerous, that your gaze can wound. You cover your hair, you bow your head, you hide your hunger. Even your joy feels suspicious. You once laughed too loud at a festival. A man said you were inviting attention. A woman said you were prideful. You said nothing. You've learned that happiness too must be modest. The law is not separate from belief. If you steal, that's sin and crime. If you lie, sin and crime. If you run away from your husband, mostly sin, but you'll still be dragged back. The village council settles disputes, but really the priest decides what's fair. And what's fair is usually what's expected, and what's expected is your silence. You hear stories of women who spoke up, of women who learned to read, of women who knew herbs too well. Some were beaten, some were exiled, some were drowned, hanged, burned, tested. They call them witches. They call them sinners. They call them cautionary tales. You call them familiar. There are rules you follow that no one speaks aloud. Don't be alone with men. Don't draw attention. Don't show skin. Don't laugh at the wrong time. Don't stand too straight. Don't speak too fast. Don't make people nervous. You keep a rosary near your bed. It's not beautiful. It's made of cheap wood and a bit of string. But you count it anyway. The beads are smooth. They remind you that someone is watching, that someone might care, that maybe, if you're good enough, quiet enough, pure enough, you'll earn rest in the next life. Because you won't get it in this one. Nothing about your life is accidental. Not your dress, not your silence, not even the way you kneel when you pray. Everything has a shape, a pattern, a script. You follow it, everyone does. That's how you survive. Take marriage. You didn't choose it. It was arranged, negotiated like a livestock exchange. Except the goat usually gets more discussion. Your dowry was 3 chickens, a decent wool cloak, and a good word from the priest. In return, you got a husband with 2 teeth and a father who wanted you out of his house. There was a feast, sort of. Turnips, dry bread, a pie someone dropped, and a song no one remembers. The old women smiled. The men drank. You bled that night. So everyone said, "See, God approves." The priest blessed the union. You were told it was sacred. You were told it was forever. You were told that obedience was love. No one asked if you were ready. No one asked if you wanted it. They only asked if your husband seemed strong, as if strength alone makes man worthy. Your role in marriage is clear. Bear children, keep house, serve food, say yes. You're not a partner. You're not a friend. You're a station. You don't fall in love. You fall into service, like a well. And when the children come, if they come, the ritual deepens. There's the baptism, the naming, the prayers. You wash them, feed them, pray over them, dress them in the same shift every day until they outgrow it, or die in it. No one talks about that. But everyone prepares. Childbirth isn't private. It's not sacred, it's communal and dangerous. You scream. You bleed. The midwife prays. The neighbours hover. The men wait outside like bystanders at a fire they started but won't help extinguish. You survive. Or you don't. If you live, you nurse. If the baby lives, you thank God. If not, you bury it behind the church and say nothing for 3 days. Because grief is a luxury. There are festivals, supposedly joyful. You wear your best dress, the one with slightly fewer holes. You walk to the village green. You eat bread from a shared loaf. You listen to men sing songs about saints and drink ale until they forget the words. You dance, if asked, but only a little. Don't draw attention. Don't enjoy yourself too obviously. You smile. You nod. You return home before sundown. Because nothing good happens after dark. Especially for women. You once watched a passion play. Men reenacting the life and death of Christ. All very solemn, all very moving. You cried, not for the man on the cross, but for the woman standing beside him. Silent, watching, powerless, you understood her. The church gives you roles: virgin, wife, mother, widow. Each comes with its own rules, its own punishments, its own expiration date. If you step outside your assigned role, people notice, they talk, they judge. If you stay inside it, they ignore you. You can't win. Even your body is ritual. Your period? Unclean. Hide it. Sit apart. Don't cook during it, not because anyone cares about your comfort, but because they believe it spoils the food. You once used a lamb's wool scrap as a pad. It slipped. You bled on the floor. Your husband shouted. Your mother-in-law whispered that it was your fault. Something about demons in the blood. You cleaned it yourself. On your knees. While your son watched. Your body is not yours. It belongs to God. To the church. To your husband. To your children. To everyone but you. If you think about that too long, you stop breathing. So you don't. You try to find comfort in rituals, in repetition, in the idea that someone, somewhere, made a plan for all this. You say the prayers, you wash the feet, you cross yourself, you do it again, and again, and again, until you forget how it started, until you stop wondering when it ends. There are stories, told in whispers, told from pulpits, told by mothers to daughters like lullabies with sharp teeth. They're not just stories, they're instructions, disguised as warnings, dressed up as faith. They tell you about saints, women who served without question, who fasted until their bones showed, who bled and smiled, who died pure and untouched and radiant. You're not radiant, you're touched, you're hungry in the wrong way. So you try to make up for it. You work harder, you pray longer, you cry quieter. You fail daily. But failure feels holy now. They tell you about bad women too. The ones who wanted too much, spoke too loud, laughed too often, healed the sick, walked alone, looked men in the eye. Those women disappeared. Some were exiled. Some were punished. Some were called witches, even if they were just midwives with strong voices and knowledge of herbs. Some were drowned to prove they were innocent. They weren't guilty, but they were inconvenient. You wonder sometimes what the difference is between a sinner and a saint. One's quiet, one's not. One dies praised, one dies blamed. Both die. You've heard tales of women who tried to leave. One ran off with a traveller. One refused to marry. One cut her hair and lived as a man for a year before she was caught. You remember her name, you always will. Her punishment was slow. public, painful. They said it was justice. You watched it happen. You pretended not to cry. Because even sympathy is suspicious. The people in power don't need bars or chains. They have stories. They wrap them around you like ropes. They tell you the world is dangerous. They tell you you're fragile. They tell you that safety is submission. That your place is earned through pain. You believe them. You have to. Because the alternative, that this is all for nothing, is too unbearable. And so you pass the stories on to your daughter, in the way you hold her when she stumbles, in the way you hush her when she speaks too boldly, in the way you tug her sleeves down, braid her hair tight, keep her close. Not because you don't love her, but because you do. You want her to survive. Even if it means she learns to disappear, like you did. There's a painting in the church of Mary, holy, perfect, untouched. You stare at her when you pray. You wonder if she ever screamed, if she ever wanted to run, if she ever doubted any of it. You wonder if God ever told her she was enough, because no one else will. You no longer believe in happy endings, but you believe in small mercies, in quiet. You believe in the way your daughter smiles when she sleeps, in the feel of sun on your back after a long winter, in the warmth of a fire that doesn't go out. You believe in survival. It's not glamorous, it's not noble, but it's something. And sometimes something is enough. You don't rebel. You endure. Because no one wrote a story about the woman who said no and lived. But someone has to write the one about the woman who stayed and mattered anyway. You wake up with a cough, deep, wet, sharp. You ignore it. There's no one to tell. No one to fix it. No one to say, that sounds bad. Lie down, drink this, rest. Rest is for the dead. And medicine? Medicine is a suggestion wrapped in superstition, smeared in pig fat, and tied with a strip of someone else's hair. You're sick. Maybe. Probably. Everyone is, a little. You cough. Your daughter coughs. Your husband spits phlegm into the fire and says, must be the cold air. You nod. What else is there to do? There are no doctors here. Not for people like you. There's the priest, who offers prayers. There's the midwife, who offers herbs. There's the blacksmith, who once pulled a rotted tooth with pliers and said, bite on this strap. He meant a leather strap. You bit your tongue. It bled for a week. You know what heals people? Luck. Or time. Or dying. If you have a fever, you sweat and hope. If you break a bone, you bind it and pray. If something swells, you lance it with a hot knife and scream until your body goes quiet. And if nothing helps, you lie down. You close your eyes. And you try to die with dignity. You won't, but you try. Childbirth is the big one. You've done it. You might do it again. You hope you survive. There's no anesthesia, no antiseptic, no trained hands. Just your mother-in-law, the neighbour girl, and a lot of yelling. You tear. You bleed. You scream. The baby comes. Or it doesn't. If it does, it might breathe. If it breathes, it might live. If it lives, it might grow. If it grows, it might stay. The midwife tells you to be grateful. You are, even while your womb burns and your thighs go numb. After childbirth, you're told to rest for 3 days, while still cooking and feeding, and getting up every time someone says, "Where's mother?" You bleed for weeks. No one asks how you're doing. They just say, "At least it's over." It's never over. You once had a friend Joan. She caught something. A fever. Or a curse. Or bad air. Her skin turned pale, then grey. Her breath rattled. Her eyes stared at nothing. They called the priest. He waved incense. He muttered Latin. They tied garlic to her feet. Put salt on the floor. Hung iron above the door. She died anyway. Slowly, quietly. Like a candle no one notices until it's out. They said, God's will. You said nothing. Infections are daily guests. A splinter becomes a boil. A scratch turns black. A toothache climbs to your brain. No one understands germs. No one washes hands. No one thinks maybe the rat in the stew was a bad idea. Your solutions are leeches, poultices, worms in wine, ash rubbed into wounds. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they don't. But they always hurt. There's a story of a woman who got a fever. They drilled a hole in her head to let the demons out. She died, of course, but they said she died lighter. The plague came once, years ago, or maybe last season. Time blurs. They burn bodies in the square. You remember the smell. You try not to. It clings. They said it was punishment. For sin. For pride. For women. It always comes back to women. You cough again. Your ribs ache. Your eyes water. Someone suggests a curing stone. Someone else suggests onion tea and a bloodletting. You chew a root. It tastes like mould and bitterness. It does nothing. You lie down, because it's all you can do. The ceiling above you is cracked. The wind sneaks in. The baby cries. You don't want to die, but you do want it to stop. The pain, the pressure, the constant demand to keep going. Your body is failing, and no one notices, because failure is normal here. You're not dying yet, just tired. That's the diagnosis. Every day, tired, and getting worse. You live in a world where no one knows anything, but everyone is certain. Certain that dreams can predict death. Certain that cats are witches in disguise. Certain that your womb can wander around your body if you get too emotional. There are rules, and there are reasons. They don't make sense. They don't have to. They just have to be old. Let's say your leg swells. It might be a punishment, or a sign, or you stepped over the wrong ditch at the wrong time of day while thinking the wrong thought. You rub it with goose grease. You bury a fish under the threshold. You whisper a prayer to Saint Apollonia, even though she is the tooth saint and you're not sure she handles legs. That's fine. Nobody is sure. Not even the saints. Your neighbour Alice had a rash last year. She said it looked like a face. Her husband swore it spoke. They brought the priest. He refused to touch it. They brought the blacksmith. He branded it. It went away. Or she died. No one remembers. Absurdity is normal now. Your baby won't stop crying. Maybe she's bewitched. You hang garlic from her cradle. You draw a cross in ash on her forehead. You leave a spoon of honey by the window to appease the fairies. Your milk dries up. Someone cursed you. You whisper apologies to the cow. You ask the midwife to sing backwards. You drink a potion made from onion skins and owl feathers. Does it work? Sometimes. Sometimes everything works. Sometimes nothing does. That's the worst part. The randomness. The cruelty of chance. Dressed up as divine judgment. You've seen a woman chained to a fence. Naked. Screaming. Everyone said she went mad. Maybe she did. Maybe she saw something. Maybe she just got tired of pretending this was normal. They poured cold water on her until she stopped shouting. They said she was healed. She hasn't spoken since. The village has a healer. She lives alone. owns a cat, knows too much. You're not supposed to go to her, but you do. She gives you herbs, and advice, and silence, the respectful kind. She tells you what not to eat, what not to say, what not to believe. You nod. You thank her. You leave coins, even if she doesn't ask. You never tell anyone you went, because if she's ever accused of witchcraft, the people she helped will be the first to throw stones. That's how it works. Your child runs a fever. You boil a cloth. You lay it on her forehead. She moans. You sing. You wait. Someone tells you to rub a frog on her feet. Someone else says to let leeches draw out the bad air. You try both. She gets better. You cry in the dark and thank every god you can name, but you never feel safe again, because now you know how close it was, and how little control you had. They talk about evil constantly. It's in the wind, in your dreams, in the chicken that stopped laying eggs. It's in women who are too old, too young, too pretty, too barren, too loud, too alone. You learn the shape of suspicion. You stay inside it. You never risk being interesting. One night, you find a lump under your arm. Hard, hot, throbbing. You don't tell anyone. You wrap it. Pray, pretend. Because if they know, they might try to fix it. And fixing things here often means hurting them worse. You don't want a hot poker near your ribs. You don't want to swallow crushed beetles. You just want to be left alone. Someone else dies. The 5th this month. A man this time. They say it was his time. But also that he angered the saints. But also that he stepped on a cursed stone. But also that he didn't eat enough garlic. Everyone agrees somehow. They bury him. They throw salt on the grave. They whisper that his wife should have tried harder. She says nothing. Of course. The fear is everywhere. Not the sharp kind, but the slow, rotting kind. The kind that seeps into the walls. The kind you forget how to name. You wash your hands, not because you understand germs, but because someone once told you. It keeps the devil out of your fingers. You sleep with a knife by the bed, not for protection, but to scare off spirits. You keep a dried bird's foot in your apron pocket. You don't remember why, but you don't dare throw it away. You laugh about it sometimes, quietly, with other women. When the men are outside, when the chores are done, when the babies are asleep, you make jokes, dark ones, strange ones. A chicken cursed me. The wind yelled at my bread. My husband has a demon in his foot. You laugh until your ribs hurt. Then you go quiet again. Because absurdity is funny, until it isn't. Death is casual here. Not dramatic. Not poetic. Just routine. Like sweeping the floor. Or drawing water. Or losing things. It doesn't knock. It doesn't explain. It just shows up. In the blood. In the breath. In the food. In the room. Sometimes it takes the old. Sometimes the young. Often the women. Too often the babies. There's no warning, no fairness, no reason. You don't ask why anymore. You just ask when. And who's next? It might be childbirth. It might be plague. It might be a scratch from a rusty nail. It might be a fever no one notices until your lips go grey. It might be your own uterus, turning against you with a polite cough and a slow bleed. It might be your husband, coming home drunk and angry. It might be a horse kicking sideways in the mud. It might be winter, sharp and silent and endless. Everything is dangerous. Everything is bigger than you. You bury a friend, again. You help lay her body out, wrap it, kiss her forehead. You clean the blood, because there's always blood. You say a prayer. You hold her child. You don't cry until the next day. Not because you're strong, but because grief has a schedule now. They say she's in heaven. You hope she is. Because she's not in the ground. Not really. The ground is just mud and worms and too close to the road. But heaven? That's something. A sky where there's no laundry, no screaming, no stew, no pain. You cling to it. Because there's nothing else to cling to. The absurdity gets worse when you try to stay alive. You catch rainwater and strain it through cloth. You whisper to bread. You walk around tree stumps clockwise. Always clockwise. Because leftward walks invite spirits. You wear a bit of string around your wrist. You don't know why, but your mother wore it, and she'd gone now. So you wear it too. There's a man who claims he can heal with breath. He charges a copper. You don't have a copper. He doesn't heal you. There's a woman who screams at the moon. They call her cursed. You call her honest. When someone dies, the priest comes. Eventually, he mutters Latin. He waves a cross. He says they were blessed. You nod. Because what else is there? Saying anything else would be cruel, even if it's true. Even if you watched her body swell and stink and seize for hours while everyone stood helpless. Even if she begged, and no one knew what to do. Even if she deserved more. You remember her laugh? The way she made fun of Stew. The way she braided her daughter's hair too tight. The way she said, "I'm fine," with her teeth clenched. You remember all of it, yet you keep it. Because no one else will. Because grief is quiet here. Like everything else. You've made peace with death. Sort of. You have to. You imagine yours will be quiet. Probably alone. Probably at night. Maybe from a cough that got too deep. Maybe from childbirth. Maybe just from being too tired to keep going. And when it comes, it'll look like a Tuesday. It won't feel dramatic. Just final. Like finishing a chore. Like putting a pot away. Like blowing out a candle. You won't get a monument. Or a name etched in stone. Or a song. But maybe someone will remember you. The way you held your daughter's hand. The way you covered the stew pot each night. The way you pressed your palm to someone's back when they were crying. Maybe that's enough. It has to be. You're not scared anymore. Not really. You've lived inside fear for too long to call it by its name. It's not a guest. It's not a shadow. It's the floorboards. The air. The thing you exhale. You don't fight it. You just keep going. Until you don't. And when the day comes, when the pain doesn't stop, when your hands stop folding, when your name becomes something whispered, you hope for one thing. That someone lights a candle. That someone remembers your face. That someone says, "She worked. She endured. She mattered." Even if only for a moment. Even if no one else believes it. It's night again. You're on the floor. Not because you fell. Just because you needed to stop being vertical. The fire is low. The house is still. Everyone else is asleep. You're not. Of course you're not. Your hands are in your lap. Stained. Cracked. Permanent shadows of work that no one will praise. You rub your thumb across your palm. It doesn't feel like you. It feels like the tool you've become. You should get up. There's always something to do. But you don't. For the first time today, maybe this week, you just sit and let yourself feel it. You're tired. But not in the way people mean when they say go rest. That kind of tired is soft. Temporary. A nap fixes it. A warm bath. A long sleep. You're not that kind of tired. You're the kind of tired that sits in your bones like regret. that hums behind your eyes like old pain. That doesn't leave, doesn't budge, just waits for your body to finally stop. There's a heaviness in your chest, not grief exactly, more like a weight made of unspoken things. The years you didn't scream, the times you didn't say no, the days that blurred into each other, each one asking more than it gave. You think about a time when you were a girl, when you believed you'd have choices, when you thought maybe your life would be different, brighter, quieter, kinder. You remember dreaming of fields full of flowers, of books, of a room with a window that only looked out, not in. And now, your window is the door. Always open, always watched. You hear your daughter cough in her sleep. Your body jolts, reflex. You wait, she settles. You relax again, barely. It never stops. This responsibility, this vigil. Even when no one's asking for you, they are. Even in silence, someone needs something. You've thought about running, just walking away. No money, no map, just your feet and the clothes on your back. You get maybe a mile, 2, before someone stops you, before you remember why you stayed. Because where would you go? Everywhere is the same. Every man owns you. Every church judges you. Every road leads to someone else's power. So you stay. Because there's nowhere else. Because you're afraid. And because leaving would make you the villain. Even if staying is what kills you. You try not to hate your husband. Not always. Some days he's quiet. Some days he laughs with your son. Some days he brings back eggs and doesn't complain about the stew. But you don't love him. Not really. You just stopped expecting better. So now you call that love. It's easier than mourning the thing you never had. You think of God. You try. You say prayers like they're chores. Like dishes. Like washing feet. You want to believe he hears you. That he sees you. That maybe this all leads somewhere. But faith feels far away now. Not gone, just blurred. Like a sound you used to recognise, now too faint to follow. Sometimes you talk to yourself. Not aloud, just in your head. You ask, is this it? Not with anger. Just curiosity. Is this the whole thing? Cooking. Bleeding. Whispering. Carrying. Waiting. You don't cry anymore. Not fully. You leak. A tear here. A slow breath there. A pause between stirring and serving where your throat gets tight and you pretend it's the smoke. You don't collapse. You don't scream. You don't throw things. You just erode. Quietly. Like cliffs under the sea. You wonder who you'd be if you weren't this. Not a mother. Not a wife. Not a worker. Not a body, just a soul. In a room with a window and time. You don't know. You probably never will. But still you wonder. There's something hollow in your chest. It's not pain. Not quite. Pain has a name, a sound, a reaction. This is quieter. Weightless, but heavy. You live with it. Sleep with it. Feed it. Hide it. It's the part of you that remembers what it meant to want things. You don't ask for much. Not anymore. You used to imagine a warm bed, a quiet room, a meal just for you. A moment where you didn't owe anyone anything. Now, you want a stool that doesn't wobble. You want 3 minutes where no one speaks to you. You want to finish your food before it gets cold. That's it. You want small things. Because the big things are gone. You miss yourself. The version of you that laughed without checking who was watching. The version that danced in a storm once, barefoot, and wasn't afraid. She's not dead. Just locked away. Too expensive to keep around. Too bright for these shadows. You stare at the wall. It doesn't answer. It doesn't comfort. But it doesn't need anything either, so that's something. You remember reading once? Barely. A monk passed through the village. You were 10. He let you hold a book. You couldn't read the words, but the letters looked like magic. Tiny paintings of meaning. You wanted to learn. Your father said, "Not for girls." You believed him, but a part of you never stopped wanting. You long for things you can't name. Not love, you've seen what they call love here. Not peace, you don't trust silence anymore. But something. A soft place. A world without fear. A version of time that doesn't demand your body in exchange for survival. There are moments, brief, flickering, when your child smiles in their sleep, when the wind moves just right through the trees, when the soup doesn't burn. You feel something then. Not happiness, but the memory of what happiness felt like. It's enough to keep going, but only just. You hear the neighbours arguing, 2 houses down. A woman's voice, shrill, breaking, then silence. You stir the pot. You look at your feet. You say nothing, because you've been her. Because next time it might be you. You don't talk about hope. Not allowed. Hope is dangerous. Hope makes you soft. Hope makes you reckless. But sometimes, at night, you hold a sliver of it under your tongue like sugar. Let it dissolve, slow, secret. You imagine a world where you get to rest. Just rest. Where no one touches you unless you ask. Where no one tells you what you are. Where you are allowed to be new. You know it's not real. You know what's real is this. The smoke in your lungs. The crack in the wall. The baby's fever. The ache in your spine. But the mind needs places to go when the body can't move anymore. And so, you go. You go to the imagined field. To the window that faces nowhere. To the room with clean linen and silence. To the fire that warms but doesn't burn. You sit there, for a moment. You remember that you still exist. Even if no one else sees it, that's something. That's everything. You stare into the fire, it's nearly out. Just embers now. Tiny red breaths at the bottom of the hearth. You should add wood. You should clean the ashes. You should do something. But you sit still. For once, the world isn't asking anything. Not your hands, not your womb, not your voice, just silence. You wrap your shawl tighter. It smells like everything. Smoke, sour milk, the iron of dried blood. Your life, in fabric. You used to hate the smell. Now you'd miss it if it changed. There's a comfort in consistency, even if it's ugly. You think about being remembered, just for a second. Not in a book, not in a song, but maybe in the way your daughter holds her spoon, or the lullaby she hums, off-key, when no one's listening. Maybe in the rhythm of her stitching, in the way she checks the door latch twice, in the way she listens to silence, just like you do. Maybe that's all the legacy you get. Maybe that's enough. No one taught you how to grieve for yourself. Not the life you lost, but the one you never got to have. There's no ritual for that. No candle. No mass. Just small moments. Little funerals for little hopes. You think about the girl you were. She had dreams. She had questions. She thought God was a listener. She thought love was a promise. She thought her story would be hers. You wish you could hold her. Tell her it's not her fault. Tell her she didn't do anything wrong. Tell her she did the best she could with a world that never gave her a chance. But you can't go back. And she can't hear you. So you light a mental candle for her. and let her go. You shift on the stool. The wood creaks, same as always. The baby stirs, same as always. The wind pushes at the door, same, but for once, you don't rush. You don't brace, you just breathe. Shallow, but still. You're not okay. You're not whole. You're not free. But you're still here. And that counts. You remember a phrase someone once said, "A woman's strength is in how much she can carry without breaking." You believed it. Too much. Now you wonder, why should you have to carry it all? Why does survival always come with silence? Why must endurance be invisible? You don't have answers. No one does. But you ask now. That's a start. The fire gives one last crack. You smile. Not because it's funny, but because it's honest. The world doesn't owe you warmth. It never did. But you found warmth anyway. In tiny things. In borrowed moments. In the breath between chores. And you held on to it like treasure. Because no one else would. Your body aches. Your bones hum. Your mind goes quiet. Not because it's at peace, but because it's tired of fighting. You close your eyes. You listen. Not for danger. Not for crying. Just to listen. To wind. To fire. To nothing. It feels like the closest thing to freedom you'll ever know. You're not famous. You're not powerful. You're not safe. But you loved. You worked. You stayed. You mattered. Even if no one says it. Even if no one remembers. Let the candle burn out. Let the room go dark. Let the world turn without you. Just for a moment. You've done enough. The fire is out. The room is still. Your breath slows. The straw bed creaks beneath you. Cold air wraps your feet. Somewhere far off, a dog barks once, then nothing. You don't move. You don't speak. You don't have to. Not now. The dark is gentle tonight. It doesn't ask. It doesn't take. It just is. And in that quiet you disappear. Not forever. Just for a little while. Just enough to forget. Just enough to drift. Just enough to sleep. Tomorrow the world will call you again. It always does. But tonight, for a breath, for a blink, you are no one. You are nothing. And it's perfect. Sleep now. The pain will wait. The work will wait. The world will wait. But you don't have to. Close your eyes. Fade. Fall. You've earned the quiet. Let it keep you.